Welcome to Current Events. We have started this Current Events program to inform our House of Destiny viewers of what's happening in the world and how it relates to Bible prophecy, because there's so much happening in the world right now that it's just blowing our minds. If you understand the prophetic and what's going on in the world and how it relates to the Bible, it's just an amazing situation that we're in right now. The position that the church is in right now is an exciting time, because we know the end from the beginning. But we want all of you out there to be informed about what's going on. And so we have launched this program called Current Events, and we'll be coming to you from time to time to speak about what's going on, the current things that are happening in the world and how it relates to the church. So with that, we want to speak today about the peace plan that's been rolled out this week and how significant it is, this peace plan, because in Daniel prophesies about this peace plan over 2,700 years ago, when Daniel was, maybe it's longer than that.
It's probably, yeah, but it's around there.
Yeah, it's an amazing prophecy, probably the most amazing prophecy in the whole of the Bible, because it starts with the angel explaining to Daniel what's going to happen in the end times. First of all, what's going to happen throughout history. And we can see that those things actually happened, because we can look at history and see when Jesus died, like it says that he would be cut off, but not for himself, but for the sin of mankind. And from there to now, we're in the last verse of that prophecy, which is
Daniel 9:27.
Daniel 9 verse 27. And so it speaks about a peace plan that's going to be rolled out. And we can see from 70 years ago how this Palestinian-Israeli conflict has been going on for so long. And we have seen now a peace plan that's with the many, because that's what Daniel speaks about. There'll be a peace plan with the many. And we can see that these Arab nations around about, it's the first time that they're actually involved with the peace plan. So to me, that's very significant that this could be the peace plan that Daniel was speaking about.
Yeah.
So from here, I want Christy to just take it from here a little bit.
Yeah, so, this past week we saw President Trump roll out, really it was historic. It's never been done before, it's never been seen before. And just seeing him standing alongside Bibi Netanyahu,
yes.
It was a very beautiful thing. I'll be honest with you, I sat and watched it and sobbed my heart out, because I was like, this is just incredible. But the verse in particular, I know that you'd wanted me to read it, it's found in the book of Daniel chapter 9, and the verses specifically that Jane is referencing are verses 24 to 27. But verse 27 says, "Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week." And we know that specifically is speaking about, it's not exactly speaking about 1 week, it's speaking about a term of time. And it says, "But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate." Now that can sound like a mouthful, yes. But really the word there, many, in Hebrew is larabim, which when you look at it, it speaks about a congregation of different people.
Yes.
It's a gathering of this congregation of different people.
That is what's so different,
yes,
about this verse, because before, when presidents have tried to like Clinton was trying to do this
deal with Arafat,
the two-state solution, there was no many.
No,
they weren't dealing with the many.
No.
Now they're dealing with the many. So this is a very, very interesting part of this verse.
It is, and also we saw it. I mean, this was Daniel, you saying thousands of years ago, this is what he was prophesying.
Yes.
And I was jotting down notes during the speech that happened this week, but I know that one of the things, that was it was a big deal, the way that Bibi Netanyahu applauded and reached out to some of his Arab counterparts.
Yes.
you know, and really showed such respect and admiration for them. And we know that you know, some of the first people to respond were the Saudis.
Yes.
And while there's always a caution, there's going to be a caution. The peace plan that got rolled out was 181 pages, which I read. And it really is a phenomenal plan. It's unparalleled, and nothing like this has ever been seen. You know, there were always these massive gaps. So yeah, Donna,
I heard something about a tunnel.
Yes. So this is one of the genius ideas about it. Now, of course, I need to just say this at the beginning. Everything is going to hinge on Palestinian reaction and acceptance or rejection of this plan. But we're speaking about the many, and the Saudis are involved, Bahrain, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, you know, Egypt. There's these different nations that are starting to kind of lean in. And one of the key elements of this deal is that every nation has to publicly acknowledge Israel's right to sovereignty and its right to exist, which is so different to the rhetoric that's been there since 1948. But you were saying about the tunnels. Yes. One of the ways that they're doing this, because they rolled out a proposed map of what it would look like to have a two-state solution. One of the key takeaways of the deal is that Israel retains Jerusalem as its undivided eternal capital. The Temple Mount obviously remains as is in terms of the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish holy sites. But, you know, along with the Palestinian state needing to be completely demilitarized and all these other elements, one of the ingenious ways that they want to make this practical is that they're going to be building some tunnels and some bridges and some roads that go via tunnel in order to make Palestinians living in Israeli territory, in order to make their commute from one part of the Palestinian state to the other doable, is through tunnels. And so it's an ingenious plan that they came up with. I mean, they looked at this from every angle. Reading it, I was just amazed. And so tunnels are one of the things where we know that they've been used for terrorist activity. So often now there's this ingenious plan to make tunnels that will better the lives. I mean, they're saying that over 1 million Palestinian jobs will be created. President Trump is speaking about $50 billion being pumped into the Palestinian state.
It's amazing.
And he spoke about the 4 years.
Yes.
And the leader of Jordan.
Yes.
And so what's going on there? Now, what's going to happen? Because he was speaking about terrorism there as well.
Yes. So another key takeaway is that there has to be, the Trump administration, along with Israel, has said that they will not recognize any full Palestinian authority that contains any members of Hamas or any terrorist organization. And if any leaders of the current leadership of Hamas, if they were prepared to come out and say that they acknowledge Israel's right to exist and they commit themselves to a peaceful solution, then they might look at being able to acknowledge them. But the king of Jordan is such a key player in this, because he's, you know, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, they're so committed to finding peace in the region. And so they are committing to working with both the Palestinians and the Israelis to make it work. And one of the other things that President Trump really made very firm, which was incredible, was speaking about certain areas of Israel that belong to Israel.
I heard that.
Areas of Judea and Samaria.
Yes. So we know that those are very significant because Matthew 24, it speaks about those areas that, and you know what, what's amazing to me is that God, he says, the land is Israel's.
Yes.
Israel is the land. He names it Israel in that verse. He otherwise it wasn't called some other name like Palestine or like they were saying. God calls it Israel. He calls it Israel. Yes. So that is, I mean, a huge part of claiming that as his. God is claiming the land as his.
Yes. It is a huge part of it. And you were speaking about a 4-year term. You know, President Trump, they've made some incredible promises. And I mean, like I said, I read through the whole 181-page document. And looking at their plan for everything from infrastructure to healthcare to education, there's full commitment, there's money amounts, there's years, there's these different terms of time that they're committed to, which is incredible for a people that are living the way they're living. And while billions of dollars have been funneled into the Palestinian territories, the money's been abused. It's been stolen. And so there's, you know, they're pushing for accountability when it comes to financing. And also the ultimate goal is to stop the status of Palestinians as being refugees. President Trump has reached out, and part of this deal is putting pressure on some of the other Islamic neighbors, saying you need to be prepared to take some of these people if they want to leave. And another thing is, in this 4-year term, one of the major concessions that Israel has made is they've agreed to halt all construction, which is a big deal in the territories that are disputed. Now, I do also need to say this, which is very important, because you'll hear things thrown out specifically during the Obama administration. Oh, we need to return to pre-1967 lines, and that sounds very fluffy and nice. But when you actually look at a map, you see how impractical it is.
Yes.
But Israel, in that 1967 war, Israel returned, because of the United States request, 88% of the land that they had taken and won rightfully as theirs. When the Egyptian armies attacked and these different armies attacked, Israel gained that territory, and it was unheard of for a nation to return land. But at the time, the American administration asked them to give it back, and 88% of it they did give back. But then, unfortunately, at the time, America failed Israel and didn't stand up. So President Trump has said, Israel has to have defendable borders on every single border. And so you see the genius of the plan in making sure that the borders are defendable, but also looking outside the box. How can we link Gaza and the West Bank via tunnel? How can we make the Palestinians commute easier and the Israelis commute easier? And so there's obviously a lot of details, 181 pages. But I think it's the first time that a plan has ever been proposed that could work.
Well, we know that President Trump, God is using President Trump. He's not the Antichrist. He's not the prince that will come. No. That is not who President Trump is. And the reason that we know that is because in that verse it says, he will confirm, this prince that is going to come is going to confirm the covenant.
Yes.
So Trump has put this plan together, but the prince that's going to come down the road here somewhere is going to confirm it or make it better. And so that's why the Jews are going to be overwhelmed with accepting this prince that's going to come.
Yes.
And I feel like that is something that I need to say, because a lot of people are saying Trump is he's doing this peace plan, but maybe he could be this prince that's going to come.
Well, he doesn't fit the description.
No,
that's what she's saying, is that it has to be.
Aside from that, even there's quite a few things about the Antichrist that Trump certainly doesn't fit.
I know, but according to this verse and the way that it's been written, and if you dissect that verse and understand what the meaning of it is,
yes,
every single little portion of it, you can see that this is it's got to be part of the plan. I mean, it just has to be.
I mean, and the 1 week they're speaking of a 7-year, 10-year, and then we read about how, halfway through it, basically, that's when this agreement will be broken.
That's right, halfway through.
Yes, and so we are definitely watching history, and I mean, it did make me very emotional. Yeah. Because also I was just imagining what Kim would be doing right now. I mean, I know he's seen it all already, but I was just imagining he'd be shouting, "Come on!" Like watching this.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I needed to say too, that I thought was really amazing of the Trump administration and of the Israeli leadership, is that President Trump had both Benjamin Netanyahu and Benny Gantz at the White House.
I noticed that.
And the agreement is that whoever ends up as prime minister, because there's an election coming up. It's the third election. It's unprecedented. And one of the things that President Trump said, which was actually funny, he said, I have with me here the prime minister of Israel, and I also have had another man who is working very hard to become the prime minister of Israel.
I heard you say that.
Which was very funny. But, that election, we're going to be covering that a lot, because it's unprecedented. The third election in the Hebrew calendar year. So it's going to be the third time that people are going to vote. But having said that, both Benny Gantz and Benjamin Netanyahu have committed to this plan, which shows that they're thinking about something bigger than politics, and they're thinking about something bigger than themselves. Yes. That, nobody's hijacking the process and saying, well, only if you elect me, then it'll happen. Both of them have conceded. Whoever ends up as prime minister will support this.
It's still going to happen.
Yes.
That's a wonderful thing.
The other thing that I wanted to just put in here is Russia and the pipeline, the gas pipeline that the Russians are involved with. Well, first of all, the Leviathan gas lines that are going to feed Europe with all the natural gas. Because right now, Russia feeds all the rest of the world with of Europe with the gas that they need. But Israel is going to take a lot of that revenue away from Russia because they are
sitting on huge resources.
Sitting on the hugest, they say, for the hugest amount of gas reserves that will last for years and years and years. And so they're able to sell that gas to Europe for much less than they can for Russia. And so when Ezekiel speaks about God's going to turn Gog's, turn him around and
so put his hook
in his nose and bring him back, you can see why. Because the plunder that's going to be taken away from Russia is this natural gas. Because Russia is going to take, Israel is going to take that revenue from Russia by supplying Europe with that Middle East gas.
Which, of course, then Russia loses its monopoly, and that's a whole other thing.
A whole other thing. And so you can see how all these players, God is, you can see it in the Middle East right now. All these players, God is in control of the whole thing. So you right out there right now, you should be excited to start with. You should feel comforted because God is on the throne and he knows exactly what's going on. He's got his hand right into the whole thing. He knows what's going on. He has already given us his plan in the Bible thousands of years ago. And those plans are coming to pass before our eyes today. So to me, this is just the most amazing, amazing time to be alive.
It is. It's remarkable.
You know, I'm sad that Kim didn't get to be here, but we are here, and we need to comfort one another with the words that Jesus said. Because when you see things happening around and you don't know what's going on, Jesus said, comfort one another with the words. And that's talking about when it's talking about the catching up, the catching away. And if we're going to be caught being nervous and everything, we can't be comforting one. It just wouldn't fit.
Exactly right.
So I think that you should be encouraged, you should be uplifted, and you should be actually looking up, because our redemption is drawing near. It's nearer than ever before.
It is.
And we're watching it unfold. And so I know that a lot of you out there want to know about what's going on in the world, want to know about the current events and how they relate to Bible prophecy. But we're going to come to you as things happen in the world that we think are relevant to what the Bible speaks about. We're going to come and share that with you. And I know that you're going to be encouraged, you're going to be comforted, and it's all about Jesus, and this is what we're here for. God's plan is unfolding.
Yeah, it is.
And we're going to be part of it. We are the church of Jesus Christ, and the church is not here during the tribulation. The church is out of here. So
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
There is
and so obviously we're excited about this peace plan rollout, and obviously we're going to have to keep watching it just to see what happens, the reactions. Those things are going to keep filtering. But some other major events happened in this last week, 2 weeks. The one is that President Trump attended and spoke at the March for Life. And he is the first sitting US president to do so. And that was beautiful. I mean, I'm sure, you know, for those of you that saw it, it really was a momentous thing to see. You know, over 100,000 people attended this, and it was peaceful. And there was just such a sense of camaraderie and unity. And the fact that President Trump actually went and addressed that was historic. We've had a week of many historic things happening. Something else that happened in the last 2 weeks is that for the first time ever, an Islamic Saudi leader, an Islamic cleric, he made a groundbreaking visit to Auschwitz. And this Islamic cleric was seen walking through that infamous sign, Arbeit macht frei, work makes free, reaching out to these Polish Jews that were there and hugging an Orthodox Jew.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It's historic, considering the fact that anti-Semitism is on the rise. Which leads me to my next thing that happened that was historic.
Yes.
Over 49 world leaders, kings, princes, rulers, presidents gathered in Jerusalem to commemorate the 75th annual commemoration of the Holocaust happened on the 27th of January. That's when it's International Holocaust Memorial Day. But the Thursday before that, because of security reasons and coordination, they couldn't do it on that actual day, but they did it a couple days earlier, where kings, world leaders were gathered in Jerusalem for the 5th World Holocaust Forum. And there you see Prince Charles speaking. And one of the most amazing moments that happened during that entire time is that the president of Germany got up and spoke at Yad Vashem, which is the leading it's the leading memorial for the Holocaust in the world in Israel. And over half of his speech was in Hebrew. And he prayed in Hebrew. And he repented, really, publicly, for what Germany had done. And it's mind-blowing when you think about that, when you think about where Israel was and this nation born out of the ashes of the Holocaust. And now these years later, looking and seeing what's going on. And I mean, it was everybody from the King of Spain to, the Argentinian president, and just literally 49. I mean, that's Zechariah 11 and 12 speaks about that, these kings gathering in Jerusalem. And again, thousands of years ago, this prophecy that we are seeing, that we saw happen in the last week. I get a little bit overexcited about it, but I'm just like, it's wild. It's actually wild that this
Christy,
happened.
it's called a two-state solution that Trump's done.
Yes.
So now, does that contradict Zechariah 12?
This is the question. This is the question that I've been digging into, and I don't have a set answer, because I actually just did this Bible plan. I was telling them about it. It's called a 30-day Bible shred, where you read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation in 30 days. And it's pretty gnarly, like you read a lot, but it's incredible seeing the full overview and getting the whole picture that quickly. And
because that is part of why a lot of just regular people out there don't understand the significance of the whole plan of God.
Yes.
If you don't understand that God has this plan, and it's a drama that's playing out, and from the beginning to the end, it's a whole drama that's playing out. You can't take pieces and pieces.
No.
You have to rightly divide.
Yes.
And if you don't rightly divide, you're going to get error and confusion. So what Christy's carry on, Christy.
So, I mean, I've read through the Bible cover to cover. It's something my mom instilled in me from when I was very young. I did it, for the first time when I was really young. And I did it every year after that. But reading it this way, I've never done it this quickly before. And what kept coming to me was how much God speaks about the land. Now, obviously, I know this. I've taught about it. But seeing it, but I know that because I pay a lot of attention to what Joel Rosenberg speaks about. He's, I really, awesome. I love him and, respect him enormously. But then, you're going to find even within the evangelical community, there's going to be a split here. Because I know that, one of the things Joel Rosenberg wrote about is that he knows that, like, Pastor John Hagee is very opposed to a two-state solution, and he's got a lot of followers in the evangelical community. But, I have thought about it, and I'm not saying I'm an authority on the matter at all, but I've thought about it a lot. And, looking through, because I read through the whole history of Israel in just a couple of days, there was a small period of time, the United Kingdom under Solomon, where everything in Israel was great. But a lot of the other time, people that shouldn't have been in the land were in the land, and God's will was still accomplished. And so that's what I've kind of looked at. I'm like, when we get to heaven, it's the New Jerusalem. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're striving for. We're on this pilgrimage to the New Jerusalem. And when we get there, that's when we finally are home. But for now, where we are, it's very clear what God did and what he's laid out in Numbers chapter 34. He gives out the dimensions of the land with specific, it's clear, there's clarity. And so it's very obvious what it is that God wants. But at the same time, looking through the whole of Israel's history, from when Joshua started and defeated the 31 kings, looking at the battles of Israel throughout history, looking at Israel's history, and it gave me a new perspective reading it that fast. I don't know that it's perfect.
No.
I don't think it is. It is hard because I know the Bible, like, going, whoa, Hebron is going to be like Palestinian territory. That's pretty rough.
But for people to say, Donald Trump, you've done a two-state solution.
Yes.
Now God's going to bring.
But at the same time, as it stands without the two-state solution, the Palestinians are already controlling a whole bunch of territory. So I understand that according to this deal, their amount of territory doubles, but the key elements are that Jerusalem is undivided. and that they get their own state in their own capital in Eastern Jerusalem.
Yes. And that's what my father prophesied on February 22nd, 2014, more than once, but particularly on that day, he said they would give half of Jerusalem away. He said that is not going to happen. He said, watch what I do in Israel and the United States of America at the same time. And that is what we are now witnessing happen. Yes. And he said that in 2014.
Which is incredible.
At that time.
Because every other solution that was ever presented was about dividing Jerusalem. This is the first time where the administration is clear. Jerusalem is Israel's sovereignty.
Yes, and the Golan Heights and the Jordan Valley, Judea and Samaria. All of those territories are in the Bible, in Matthew.
Yes.
And they're undisputed now.
And I think looking at those key areas and realizing that they line up with Scripture, that's what we have to look at. Again, I'm not saying I'm an authority on it. I'm sure there's going to be some people watching this.
We've been thinking about it a lot. We've been pondering these things. Over the years, we've been pondering them. What do they mean and how is this all going to happen? How is it going to unfold? And it looked impossible. So this is a light.
It is.
That's shining right now for us Christians who've been watching and waiting for so long. Yes. So it's just awesome.
It is amazing. And one of the things that President Trump said too, I know we've spoken about it a lot, but it is historic. It's incredible. He spoke about how Israel's a light to the nations. Yes. And he quoted Scripture and referenced Scripture. And at the end of the day, you know, God is the ultimate judge of all things, not us. But I don't think anybody could say of Donald Trump that he does not have a love for Israel.
No. Donald Trump has gone through so much. There's such a spiritual war against him. And you've seen it in just ridiculous things that's been going on in this impeachment trial. The most unbelievable hypocrisy that I have ever seen in my life.
Me too.
It just makes me so angry. Hypocrisy is
I've
just
stopped watching
the
news.
word. It's the word.
It's Romans 1.
Right word.
But it's Romans 1. The God of this world has blinded the minds.
Yes.
It's almost like an insanity. Like there's been this giving over of insanity that we read about because it's not sane.
It's a spirit.
It is a spirit.
It's
a
definitely
spiritual
warfare.
But it's not coming from a church.
There are demonic
forces
at work in this country. And so we need to really, really pray for our president because he is under attack like I have never seen anything like.
But you know that someone is doing God's will.
Yes.
When they come under attack like that. And we know that personally from the life that we've lived with Daddy and in the ministry. When you are doing God's will, the enemy attacks. And so when I see that going on, then I look at the situation at that bigger picture and think he's doing the right thing. And that's why there's such an onslaught and attack that it's to the point of insanity and madness.
And one thing I just need to mention is while the focus is on Israel, our focus here is too. And for those of you that haven't seen, there's an incredible campaign that we've got running at the moment that we are focusing on for 2020. And our campaign is called Defend Israel's Defenders. And we have adopted a team of 31 young people who are in a special forces unit of the IDF known as the Maman team. And these young soldiers are risking their lives. They do crazy missions. They're the people on the border. They're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones putting their lives at risk. They're taking extreme risks every day with how they're living in order to defend Israel. And we as the House of Destiny Israel Update have adopted them. And we are taking responsibility for them. And for those of you that haven't seen, we got them specialized combat gear. Now you might think, well, why doesn't the government provide it? Well, the government's fighting quite a lot of rage and hostility from her neighbors. And the army provides basic gear, but these are guys that are having to go and do extreme missions in extreme weather. For those of you that have ever been to Israel and been there in winter or summer, you know what that Israeli desert is like, and it's vicious. So we've been able to provide them with this incredible combat gear that is just changing their lives. These incredible trekking boots and different things that seem so simple. It's clothing, but that's the work of Jesus that we're able to do. We're being the hands and feet of Jesus. And there's a lot more we want to do. We want to be able to impact their families. A lot of them come from very poor backgrounds. And we also want to commit to these young people to when they want to study, when their time of the army is done. So I'm really going to encourage you. There's going to be banners coming up now. Click on those banners. Go have a look at this campaign. And I'm encouraging you to sow into it.
The Bible says, when you bless Israel,
Oh, yes.
You will be blessed.
Yes.
There's a blessing that's on that land that's part of God's reward to you when you sow seeds and you bless the land of Israel.
Yes, there is. And it's also just a campaign I'm very excited about. You know, it's one of Doobie's old commanders that helped find this team for us.
Wonderful.
And they're just they're a beautiful group of young people, and they're doing incredible things. So make sure you click on those banners, Defend Israel's Defenders, and join with us doing that.
Anyway, right now you can press the link at the bottom of your screen, and you can sow into the House of Destiny, because not only do we reach people in Israel, but we are involved in a lot of other missions and good works. So if you want to be a part of it, you can, and it's by pressing that red link at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching by social media, you can scroll down and you can see all the different ways you can give. So be a part of this offering today, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of you. We love you so much for being there for us and for following us for so long. A lot of you have followed us for many, many years and been a part of the House of Destiny. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us today for Current Events, and be watching for the next edition of Current Events.
Thank you for watching the House of Destiny's YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get all of our latest content. This video was brought to you by all of our generous supporters. If you'd like to give, click the link in the description. We have new episodes every week, so stay tuned, and remember, you're somewhere in the future and you look much better than you look right now.